Board of Education to order at this time. And I'd like to introduce Ms. Holly Garland, and she's going to swear in our new board member, Dr. David Long.
Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Garland, and welcome back from Vermont. Ms. Lazier, do you have the roll call for us, please? Yes, I will. Mrs. Elder.
Here. Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Mrs. Kosar. Here. Dr. Lawson. Mrs. Haynes. Here. Dr. Moffett.
Here.
Mr. Music.
Here.
Mr. Palmer.
Here.
And Dr. Zimmer.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Garland, is there a solicitor's report this evening?
No report this evening.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with the committee reports, education and planning. The students aren't with us this evening, so I assume that they'll be here next week for the regular meeting, and we'll get their report at that time. I'd like to introduce Lori Majorski from Latrobe McDonald's, who will present the board this evening. Is Lori with us?
No one we stands up here.
Goes come to the podium.
Hi, this is Lori Majorski. She's here from the McDonald Corporation in Latrobe, presenting us with a check for our Trout in the Classroom. We'd like to thank her on behalf of the 7th grade students and the Life Science Department.
I'm very pleased to present Jackie Hoops with this certificate. The program that she has going with the trout sounds very interesting. I'm sure the kids are going to enjoy every bit of that. And here you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jackie, will you tell us a little bit about the programs?
Trout in the Classroom program we've been running for 3 years down at the junior high, started by Carol Wright. The program supports raising brook trout, Pennsylvania brook trout, from eggs to what we call fingerlings. The project culminates with an activity of a field trip to Lynn Run, where we release the trout that we have raised, and includes all the 7th grade students. In that culminating activity, we have separate little activities of drawing a blank, macro vertebrate collection. We did a little newscast last year. We did a couple of activities actually in the stream itself, and they taught us how to fly ties and also to fly fish. So it's a great activity for the kids. They enjoy it, and hopefully we have success this year as well as we did last year. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
How many jobs did you put through?
Oh, well, last year my class ours was the linen class, and we had 100, I think it was 155, which was about a 68% success rate, which was the highest one. And I think Mr. Roberts' class was a 55%, and then the high school tank, which Carol Wright runs, was a little bit lower. So we'll see this year who does the best.
But you have students that come in every
Yeah, I have students that come in every morning, and they take care of the trout tank. They test the chemicals in the tank daily. Water is changed about 5 gallons out of the tank daily. The bottom is swept, kept clean, and they're in charge of all that. So they have a lot of work to do ahead of them, but they enjoy it. It's something that they really like doing. So
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to thank the kids in your school then for the product.
yeah, well they were the trout. Well, we released them at Lynn Run, so if you caught them at Lynn Run, they might be ours. They might be.
That's a gem up there. It really
It is. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. Absolutely gorgeous.
The history of that stream, it was tremendously affected by acid rain for years and years.
Yeah, and that's what really reduced the number of brook trout in that
They've been
stream.
working on it for years now, the Department of whatever it is, Department of Environmental Resources, they put limestone in those feeder streams, they've improved the water quality. I didn't know you guys were putting trout.
We're putting trout in there for them.
I used to go up there years ago and catch maybe a couple trout. Now I go up there in 2 hours, I'll catch 20.
There you go, see, it's working.
Let them fight for another day. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice. And surprisingly, many of our kids in this area have never been there. So the field trip to them is also a new experience. So it's pretty exciting for them. Thank you.
Ms. Majorski, it means a lot to us at Greater Latrobe when the community recognizes our programs such as this, and we thank McDonald's and you very much for coming and giving that award, and we're very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeff Engel is here with some students to talk about the 2001 Summer Science and Math Experience. Mr. Engel, welcome.
Before I talk about the summer science and math experience, I have to tell you about the trout in the classroom in junior high. Because it's like the British are coming, only the trout are coming. Because when they arrive, we have kids scurrying, and we have janitors hustling, we have secretaries making phone calls, and so the whole entire school rallies. And it's a pretty unique experience when they come. And so for the entire process, of the entire majority of the time that's going on, it is a fun time, and kids really take it to task to take care of those things. So it's neat to see them grow. We go through walkthroughs and we see them this big, and then they get a little bit bigger, and there's a couple with 2 heads, and then they get that's pretty neat. So, I don't want to take any more time. I'm here to talk to you guys about the Summer Science and Math Experience. Come on, of course. This experience is a 1-week, 5-day math and science experience that allowed 12 of our 8th grade students to spend 5 days and 4 nights learning about how science and math impacts our world. The experience is hosted by the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg, and it's paid for a grant by the McFeely Rogers Foundation. Our students participated in 3 or 4 separate experiences each day, and I brought 2 of them here with me tonight to tell you a little bit about their experience. And this takes place in June, so these ladies volunteered some of their summer vacation to do this.
One of my favorite things that we did was the science of healthy snacking. We got to learn how to make healthy snacks and make them taste really good. One of my favorite things was the fondue and fresh fruit. We also got to learn how to make different things and the science behind it, which was really neat. Another one of my favorite things was we took a pan and put water in it and made it completely disgusting dirty. Went outside, put dirt in it, and then we took a small cup and put it in the middle, covered it all with saran wrap, and put a small rock on the top. So then it was kind of dipped down. So whenever, no one set it out in the sun, so whenever the water would evaporate, it would get up on top of the saran wrap and then go down into the small cup. So then we would all have fresh water. And then we got to drink it afterwards, which was really neat to learn how to do that. And we also got to build a computer. It was completely disassembled, yeah. And then we had to put it together, which was really cool because once we got it together, then we got to get it up and running, and we all got to use our own computers that we made. I really enjoyed that.
This is Janine Shuttle, by the way. I don't know if you'll introduce her.
My favorite experience was the Secret Science of Toys. We made bubbles out of, it was carbon dioxide from dry ice, and we also made bottle rockets, and those were really fun to do. And we did a lot of experiments with dry
that's one of the things in talking with many of the students, that this type of camp really has sparked an interest in many of the different science fields. And as they get older, I think in talking to them before this presentation, it seems that they've really kind of, now that they're getting into some other fields and other classes within the science field, they're starting to understand some of the things that they actually did last summer. So it's a good connection. Laura Pringman was supposed to be with us tonight, but she's ill, so she didn't make it.
Mr. Engel, how many
Yes.
students did this? How many
12 students got it, yes. There were some other students involved as well. I'm not sure how many other schools, how many other students.
But we only have a grant for 12 students.
We had 12 students, correct. 8th graders, these are 9th graders. Thank you.
Another opportunity to hear from our students. Mr. Chad Kralick's here with students from the summer 2001 Pennsylvania Free Enterprise.
Hi, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Before I start talking about Pennsylvania Free Enterprise, I just want to echo the sentiments of Mr. Engel, who mentioned about the buzz at the Trout Classroom period. The senior high as well. We have about 200 fish in the tank there. I have to, my job is to keep reminding Mr. Cassidy over there, it's not going to become our lunch. It really is, so, okay, Deja is passing out information on Pennsylvania Free Enterprise, and what I would like to briefly just introduce and to tell you is that Pennsylvania Free Enterprise is a hands-on business education program which began in 1979 at Clarion State College, which focuses on the American free market economy. It is a one-week program which is held in 4 sessions. When it began at Clarion State College, there was only a few dozen students in 1979 that attended. It has grown into each summer. It has been moved to Lycoming College, Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and they now host 1,400 students each summer. So it's quite a program. The uniqueness about this program, which started in 1979, is that students that attend the program attend on a full scholarship, which is paid by local businesses and foundations across the state of Pennsylvania. We are fortunate in Latrobe to have foundations such as the McFeely Rogers Foundation, which hosts students and pays for our students to attend this program. A week at Lycoming College, staying in their dorms and having your meals paid for is quite expensive. Those of you that have paid for summer camps or inquire about summer camps, it can be quite costly. But foundations such as the McFeely Rogers Foundation that helps offset these costs for students to attend provide a tremendous experience for our students. One that I would like to share. I'd like to share some of the students' experience with you here today. I have 3 students, Deja Alford, senior, Ivy Pergerman, and Taylor Short, both juniors, who, when I spoke with them in my office, I said, what was it that you gained? And I found 3 different experiences and 3 different responses from each of them. And I thought it would be good for you to hear what they gained from the Pennsylvania Free Enterprise experience they had this past summer. So I'll introduce Ivy first.
Hi, I'm Ivy Pergerman. I really gained a lot from attending Free Enterprise this summer. They had us learning stuff from the first day. We got there around noon, and we were in that auditorium taking notes that first day from speakers about how to start our business with our company and succeed throughout the week. By attending, it made me realize how hard it actually is to start a business and
each other, and that we focus on quantity and luxury rather than quality. And PFPW really helped me become who I am. It taught me that I didn't have to be that shy girl in the corner who barely spoke, and that I could become a quality member of a group. And it helped me with my public speaking, and it showed me that people can become best friends in a week. From really not knowing anything about each other till at the end of the week knew everything about each other. And it really helped me broaden my career choices and made me, well, it inspired me to pursue a career in pre-vet and start my own vet business. And PFPW focuses on who you actually are, not the typical stereotypes that people base you off of nowadays.
My name is Deja Alford. I'm a senior this year, and my experience at PFPW was pretty amazing. My experience wasn't like the usual experience for everyone because I was like the CEO of my business, and I was in charge of around like 20 people in my group. And the second day, like as soon as I got elected, our advisor just left it all up to me. So I had to like pick up our company from the very bottom and like start from scratch, from what we were gonna do, like how we're gonna sell it and everything. Every morning I'd go to my meetings around 6 o'clock in the morning and talk to the real CEO of PFPW, and he told us what the new challenges were gonna be for the day and what we needed to do as a company. So it gave me like an brand new aspect of like what a real CEO is like and how it is to run a business. And I got to see the financial side and the marketing side all in one, and to see how it is to run a business and work with everyone and all get along. And we all got along pretty well. It not only like gave me business aspect and business experience, but it was a fun experience and something I would always want to do again. Thanks.
Each spring, we have a representative from Pennsylvania Free Enterprise speak to our sophomores, our current sophomores and juniors, and they tell them about the experience and they encourage them to apply. That will be occurring on March 9th. We'll have a speaker that will attend, and each student will have the opportunity to apply for Pennsylvania Free Enterprise. To let you know how this goes full circle, and each year I learn a little bit more about Pennsylvania Free Enterprise. Ivy was sharing with me earlier that when she took the forms home last year, and her father saw the forms, said, "Hey, I attended that 20 years ago." And her father is a business owner here in Latrobe, and family-run business, and he said that his roots and his inspiration, and much like the students at the time, came from Pennsylvania Free Enterprise, and that's not us. So students learn new ideas, new skills, new confidence, and a new network of friends. And this is a wonderful program, and again, this is all made part by local organizations and foundations that generously donate funds towards sponsoring our students. Thank you very much.
How are the students actually selected, Mr. Fralick? Who makes the decision?
Application process?
Everyone fills out an application and they write like a little summary about why they feel they should be accepted, and everyone gets like a scholarship if they can find businesses around their area to fund them, and depending on who seems like they want to go the most, I guess, gets picked, and almost everyone gets a chance to go. I'm not sure if anyone who wants to climb. There's 4 different weeks that you can go, so there's a lot of opportunities for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all. Very nice.
We have a video, it's a promotional video. I'll leave this later. If anyone wants to see the video, what students experience, feel free. Thank you.
And a special thanks to the McFeely Rogers Foundation for sponsoring all of these interesting things that we're hearing about this evening. Boring stuff.
That was more than fun.
Enrollment report, Dr. Taffer.
The enrollment report is attached for your
This is sort of like following Santa Claus. In January, typically, with federal programs, as you know, you budget for federal programs, you get your allocation in the spring, you budget for it in July. It runs on a 15-month cycle, budgetary cycle, as opposed to a 12-month budgetary cycle. And in January, you either get an upward amendment or a downward amendment. Well, a couple months ago, we received word that they had reduced allocations based upon some of the workings in Washington around the budget. We just received word again that that money was restored, but they don't know exactly how much of it was restored. And so, to be patient, and so this January, I have no word on an upward or downward amendment. And so we will go as planned. It should be interesting as Title I moves toward becoming a competitive grant that's based upon both need and capacity. And as we're talking about competitive grants, I'm going to inform you, as I mentioned in the past, the Keystone Opportunities Grant through the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was one of 5 or 6 states awarded this Striving Readers Grant. We are going to make a pre-application. There's a pre-application process, and if you make it through that, you're invited to file a formal application. We had a group of people representing birth through 12. Mrs. Mays was in attendance to talk about a needs assessment for birth through 12, and to begin looking at some strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats from this grant. And there are several requirements tied to it. If we are invited to make a full application, obviously we'll come back to the board, seek your approval for it, and provide you more detail surrounding the grant at that point in time, until we get to the point where we move on to the next level. If we move on to the next level, I'm not going to say too much because it's a lot of information, and based upon how well we perform, I'm not completely positive or confident that we'll receive enough points because of our past successes. And so until we do, I just want you to know that we are filing the pre-application for that grant. We are also continuing with the teacher evaluation pilot. We have had 5 members of our administrative team trained. It is labor intensive. It is takes a lot of time to do one evaluation. Requires a lot of work from the teacher and the administrator, and it's a pretty extensive process. With that being said, we had 50 teachers volunteer, and consulted with our representatives from the IU. They were facilitating the implementation of the pilot. It is strongly suggested, even by PD, that we reduce that number. So we are looking to scale back the number of those cycles that we're doing, but we are continuing along with the pilot implementation scheduled for the 13-14 school year. And finally, professional development sessions around Moodle and also the smart boards at the elementary level are continuing. Mrs. Pinas is overseeing those sessions, and our principals obviously are in attendance as well. I will say this, we have been doing walkthroughs in classrooms throughout the building at all levels, and you can see the information, the knowledge that they're learning through those sessions being applied in classrooms. It's sort of like the field of dreams. If you build it, and they will come. In regard to global classrooms, we have our teachers who are doing very well with that. And as we talk about things about assessment strategies and active and meaningful student engagement, those things are coming real to life as we see each and every day. And that's a testament to our teaching staff, to our administrators, and also Mrs. Pinas and the people putting on the training. So I just want to say kudos to them. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. On the agenda for next week will be approval of an out-of-state trip to Washington, D.C. for the Kennemetal Young Engineers, and it already happened, so you'll be approving it retroactively. That's the word I was looking for.
Is that what you did last night? There was a news report yesterday morning in Washington, D.C. There was a
the students, and then they gave awards to each of the, they call them innovators, who were the people who worked for Kennemetal, who worked with the students. And there were obviously many more innovators than there were students involved, so it wasn't a one-on-one, all the time the same one kind of deal. Most of the innovators were there, and I think that shows their interest and their pride in having participated in the program. And I spoke to a couple of the parents, and they were very pleased. One of the points that was made was that it had saved them a great deal of money, because their students now were much more directed about what they wanted to do when they got to college. And before they had a very wide interest, which would have led to a lot of courses that maybe wouldn't be utilized, but now they were very directed, and it would be a very good thing to be able to continue this. And so, you know, this is one of those programs that isn't always seen. You see the positive aspects, but there are also negative aspects that are just as important, maybe monetarily and time-wise, to a student and their family as the positive ones. And all of the parents who were there were very happy that their kids had had the opportunity to participate. And I think we should be very grateful that Mrs. Pompilia took the interest that she did and continues to have that interest, and she should be congratulated for that as well.
That ends my report. Dr. Laughlin's not with us tonight, but Dr. George is going to work for the legislature.
I don't know if I need a mic, but we were told to use it, so. Don't give me a microphone, we'll get some music going here. I was asked to comment about the legislative report because myself and my wife are both champions, I think, of public education, and we were disgusted with the Republican attempts to undermine education in our estimation. So we've written many letters to legislators over the years, but actually Mr. Mike Reese, our representative in the State House, actually has called my home a number of times and spoken to my wife about issues that affect public education and certainly our school district directly. And my wife invited him to come visit us at Latrobe School District to talk. And he did. And he came. And basically our first discussion with him over the phone was, why don't you come and see what we actually do, what our schools are about, what our teachers actually do, and what it's like to be actually in a classroom and see what's going on. It turned into a little bit more than that, but that was part of his day. The first part of the day involved myself, my wife, Mrs. Lepresti, Mrs. Pellis, Mrs. Swigert, and I'm sorry? Mrs. Pellis, yes. Mrs. Pellis, Mr. Reese and his aide, talking about issues that we found important to public education, why we felt that what we were concerned about. And Mrs. Swigert made some very good points. And one of the most poignant things she said that actually stuck with me, and I hope it sticks with him, was that people have to understand that when you send your kid to school, you're entrusting your child to people for 13 years of their life. And what a tremendous responsibility that is to an organization, to the school district, to entrust your children to someone like that for that period of time. And that it is an extremely important function of our state government to support that kind of effort and that kind of trust. And why we would undermine that goes beyond me to any reasonable adult would think that way, but that is what we are paying taxes for. That is why we are supporting public education, because of that tremendous responsibility to our children. And I like that comment. I hope he listened to it. We had some good discussions about cyber charter schools and why we think they're terrible and why we think they need to be reformed and why we think that they steal money from public schools. And we had a good discussion about that. We also talked a good deal about the vouchers and we went into a little bit of the politics of it, but I think we tried to make him understand why we object to it and why we think that public education is worth supporting. After our meeting, we talked for almost 2 hours. It was very cordial, very nice, and we exchanged some ideas. You never know where things are going to go with this kind of thing, but at least he heard us. At least he listened to us. And he is involved with the education committee. He is on the education subcommittee in the House, so it's important, I think, that he listened to us, and he did. He also toured the school. I don't know how long that tour lasted because I actually left before that occurred.
He was there till almost 12 o'clock.
Yeah, so he actually walked around, he visited some classrooms, he got to talk with a number of teachers, and I think that is an important thing. Again, you don't know how anything's going to change or come of this thing, but I think it's important that that kind of thing occurs. And my wife's point was, and I agree with this point too, you can listen to as many experts as you want. You can listen to any study group that you want. I've been in enough meetings in my life and enough conferences in my life to know if somebody wants to tell you something's black and it's really red, if you don't see it for yourself, you will believe what they tell you. But for this guy to come out and actually walk around and visit things and actually see what we do, and to really see what a great school district we have, what a great job we're doing with our kids, I think that's important. Because I think the thing that we're losing sight of, and I think with the Republican Party in our state, actually the federal government, everybody's losing sight of, is that when you talk about failing schools, nobody ever thinks their school is failing. If you pin them all down and ask them, is my school failing? They'll probably tell you it's not failing. But that's all we ever hear about, how our schools are failing, how they're failing our kids, and how they're failing education. We all know that there are schools that are failing, and we all know what schools they are. It's not secret. It's maybe politically correct not to say the reasons why they're failing. But my school isn't failing. And frankly, our school district isn't failing. It's doing extremely well, given the constraints we've been put under, considering the issues we have to face, the financial burdens we have to deal with, and everybody wanted to tell us we're not doing a good job. I think it was important for him to come and see what we had, and he did. What comes of it, I don't know, but it was a nice day for him to come and look at it and see it.
Thank you for the effort, that was great. Finance, Mrs. Eller.
Next week on our agenda, we will have the treasurer's report and payment of bills and budgetary transfers, which appear in the chart on your agenda. There is no change in the IRS mileage rate for this year. And we talked a little bit earlier about the contract, which is in your packet, and we will be voting on that for the Employee Assistance Program next week. And now is the time when we will introduce Mr. Greg Camerata, who's going to talk to us about T-Tex Energy again. Thank you.
Thank you. What I'd like to talk to you about tonight, I've been here the past couple of years, talking to you about similar things, but what I want to talk to you about tonight is the PGM Demand Response Program. Latrobe School District has participated in this for the past 2 years. They've done very well. It's allowed us to write checks to the district, pretty sizable checks at times for participation. And basically, I just want to highlight what the program is, again, because we're coming up on enrollment time. There's some changes to the program that I'm going to go over. But just to remind you what the program is, if you curtail your electricity on the grid, that is treated much the same as building a little power plant on the grid. So power plants, when they do their thing, they get paid a certain amount of money to generate the megawatts that they generate. Well, there's been some programs put into place that allows people that can reliably curtail their electricity on demand to get paid these same types of payment for doing this curtailment. And what that's called is PJM's Demand Response Program. Now, there's different programs in different parts of the country, and there's actually some other programs that are going to be offered in this part of the country that you guys, and I'll be talking to Dan about in the future. But the iteration of the program that you guys have been participating in basically deals with curtailing your usage in the June 1st to September 31st timeframe. Okay, that is essentially the peak time that they've established on the grid. That's when usage is the highest. So they put this program in place to say, hey, anybody that can curtail their usage during that potential peak time, that's a benefit to the grid, and we can issue them money for doing that. So again, Latrobe's been participating in this for a couple years. As a matter of fact, I just got the results for last year's performance, and we're going to be, these were signed off by the grid as of yesterday. So we're going to be issuing quarterly checks that will total $14,293 for last year's participation. And what Latrobe essentially did last year to get this $14,000 was there was no event on the grid. There was no emergency. So all that you had to do was to perform a test for an hour and basically curtail your usage. That solidified your position in the program. It showed the grid operator that you could participate. And for that hour and a half, we were able to get you guys $14,000 for participation. So I think it's a great program. I think it's something that you guys should continue to participate in. There are, however, some changes to the program going forward. So that's what I want to talk about now. So first of all, the things that determine how much money you can make under this program, one thing is called your peak load contribution. Okay, it's essentially they establish what were the 5 highest hours that stressed the grid. Okay, and they will pick 5 hours from last year, and they'll say, okay, August 17th at 5 in the afternoon was one of the top 5 hours on the grid. And then they go to every single customer in the region and they say, what were you guys doing? What were you guys using on those 5 highest hours? Okay, and they take the average of those 5 hours, and that's what's called your peak load contribution. That's how much you guys contributed to the problem of the peak on the grid. Okay, so as you can imagine, your peak load contribution, even though you're not doing a lot different every year, your peak load contribution can vary widely. Okay, say for instance, one of those 5 hours happened to be August 30th at 2 in the afternoon. Well, school's in session there. Another year, all those 5 hours might be during summer vacation. So you take those averages and your PLC is very low. Okay, so the first thing I want you guys to understand is your PLC moves up and it moves down every year. We can't project what it is, you can't project what it is, but it's a very significant driver in what you guys can make. And the second thing that determines what you guys can make is essentially the auction value of capacity. Okay, the auction value of capacity is basically how much is a megawatt of reduction worth. And like any market, whether it's the stock market or whether it's the natural gas market, that value goes up and it goes down. And it's kind of a boom-bust cycle, okay? Whenever there's a shortage of electricity on the grid, okay, the value of capacity goes way up, okay? Once that value of capacity is high, a couple things happen. First of all, people that have power plant projects to build power plants, they say, wow, look at the value of capacity. I'm gonna take this project that I've been waiting to do, and I'm gonna build that project. And then people like yourselves that maybe weren't participating in these programs, they see a high capacity value, and they say, okay, we're gonna participate now because it's a very high value capacity. But what ends up happening is, whenever the capacity of value gets high, you have too many people that want to do it. So now all of a sudden, there's more people that want to do it than there is essentially money to go around. So the value of capacity starts to go down. Once that value capacity is down, it reverses. So it's kind of a cyclical thing, okay? So what we've seen the past couple of years, 2 years ago, your revenues were probably 20% higher than they were last year, okay? I don't remember what the exact value is, Dan, but if you're making this year somewhere around $14,000, I would guess you were close to $18,000 or $20,000 in past
Yes.
years. Okay, so this year you're going to be at 14. The sheet that I want you guys to take a look at is the one that is titled Customer Energy Curtailment Revenues.
You look in your packet, there's it's titled Energy Curtailment Program. It's a 2-page document. What Greg's actually referring to is the one on the very back. You can take a look at that.
Okay, so
Yep, right there. Looks like this.
okay, so what we've tried to do in this revenue estimate is we've tried to project forward what your revenues are going to be over the next couple of years. Okay. Now, a couple things I want to tell you about this. If you look at the very top, there's a smaller rectangular box that says dollar per megawatt year. It's a $/MW-year. You can see the first number is 6,007. That's the value of capacity for this coming year. You can see the year after it goes to 10,000, and then the following year it goes to 45,000. Okay, so in that third year, you're basically at a level that we were last year. So you can see that kind of cyclical movement that's happening over the next couple of years. The projections for your revenue at the bottom where it says total. Okay, on this sheet that you're looking at, you can see next year 2,946. Okay, that's based on the lower capacity value. Okay, one thing I do want to point out here is the other thing that I told you that this was dependent upon is your PLCs. When we did this estimate for Dan about a month ago, PLCs that you see there listed, you can see there's 6/1/2011 PLCs. The grid doesn't issue your new PLCs until right about today. Okay, so when we did this revenue estimate, all we had to go on was what your PLCs were last year. On the way out of the office today, we did get Latrobe's new PLC values. Okay, the new PLC values, you can see the old ones totaled 490. If you sum up that fourth column over, your PLC for last year jumped to 776. Okay, so what that does is, that essentially is a 58% increase from the numbers that were used in this estimate. Okay, so what happens is your revenue estimate there, based on the actual PLC numbers that we just got today, instead of the first number being 2,946, your first number is actually 4,654. Your second number would go from 3,970, it would increase to 6,273, and your third number would go from 18,039, it would go to 28,501. Okay, and those changes from what you're looking at are strictly based upon the new PLCs that were just issued by West Penn Power today. Okay, so those numbers going forward, the next year number is pretty much set in stone, the 2011 or 2012, 2013 number. But obviously, when you get to 2013, 2014, you're going to have a new set of PLC values, which could go up and it could go down. Again, we don't know that year over year. So the 6,273 and 28,000, that's our best guesstimate right now, but it will change in each year. So the last thing that I want to talk about, and the main reason we're here today, is that the deadline for next year's enrollment is kind of upon us. And there's a significant change in the program from the perspective of administering the program. We've been under, for the past 5 years, what's been called an ILR program, an demand response. And the ILR program was essentially just an interim program to get people to participate. Okay, so from the administration standpoint for a company like Keytex, we would go out and we would take a certain amount of risk by taking on this load reduction amount for all of our has happened now in this new program, now that the ILR, the interim program, has gone away, is we actually have to go out into the marketplace and we have to bid essentially with our own money in these capacity auctions that are taking place every year, okay? And by bidding in these capacity auctions, the provider, like Keytex and like all the other folks out there, is taking on a pretty significant liability to do that. A lot of the providers out there, like Keytex, are, as a result of having to take on this extra risk, they are adjusting their percent shares, okay? How we get paid in this whole demand response program is we get essentially a share of the revenue that is generated by the program, okay? So in the past, Keytex's fee for Latrobe School District has been, I think, 23, Dan? 28%, okay? Typically what you see in the marketplace going forward, and in the past it's been about 60-40 for most customers. We were able to do 28% for Latrobe School District. Going forward, a lot of the providers out there are clear up to a 50-50 share rate to take on this risk. What I have proposed to Dan, and again, this is not something that we're proposing to all of our customers, but you know, we're a member of Latrobe School District here, my kids go here. We are proposing a 100% share for next year for Latrobe. So essentially, we're not going to make any money on this program next year. We're trying to help you guys, being that the market value of capacity is low. You know, you guys are kind of taking a hit on what you guys are going to make out of the program. So we want to give you guys a 100% share for next year, and then in the following years, we want to give you a 80-20% share. But what we're asking the district is, one of the ways that we can cover our risk in this program, in going out to these auctions, is to sign a multi-year contract. Okay, because these auctions that we have to participate in, they are 3 years in advance. Okay, so I'm going to bid in February into a capacity auction for capacity 3 years from now. So it's a significant risk. So what we need to do is we need to lock up as many customers as we can for more than a 1-year commitment, more than a 2-year commitment. We got to do a 3-year commitment in order for us to feel comfortable to bid in these auctions. So the contract that we've done with Latrobe in the past, I think we did a 2-year contract. So what we're asking you guys to do is to extend it to a 3-year contract. We want to give you the more aggressive revenue shares. We want to give you 100% next year. And like I said, we're just working in every way we can, you know, to kind of get you guys as much revenue as we can. And that's basically the highlights of the program. With that, if anybody has any question about how it works or what we're asking the district to do, I can entertain that.
In addition to that, I forwarded the agreement to Mr. Naples to review, so you'll see it's next week when you go to the appendix list for review and approval, but the agreement is worded and structured just like the one that we entered into 2 years ago.
And I can tell you, you know, as far as risk goes, you know, we have a lot of customers that do this. Where Keytex has actually become one of the largest energy consulting providers in the Northeast United States. We have a significant amount of customers, and I can tell you Latrobe School District is probably one of only 15% that has year over year complied 100% with the demand response program. So, you know, when you get your invoice for the payments that you're going to get, there's literally 0 deductions on it. You know, you guys have the program down perfectly. You know, that's a tribute to the maintenance guys and the people that do the operations, because, you know, when we give you the time and the data to test, you guys curtail down to 0. When it's time to come up, you come up, and you know, we never have to worry about that. So I think risk going forward is literally no risk for you guys. The people that you know, we do have some companies and some districts that if you don't comply to the level that you say you're going to comply, you actually lose what you were going to make, and you have a penalty that can be 20% above and beyond what you were going to make. So it's very important that when you say you're gonna do it, you do it. But if you do that, there's literally no risk for you.
And just one more thing I might add. If you're wondering why Keytex, I don't know if you remember, those of you who were on the board 2 years ago, we went through a process where we reviewed other providers of this service, and Keytex provided the best, the most attractive share to the district, as well as additional services that they've been able to provide us as far as electricity procurement, reviewing bills, those sorts of things. So that's why Keytex is here today.
And if I could just take one more minute on a different subject, because this is something that's very timely, and I think that the board, this is something that the board would like to hear. One of the services that Keytex provides, obviously this is demand response, but we also work with Dan for your electricity procurement. And a couple years ago, we put Latrobe in a very attractive contract, as well as all the other districts just about Westmoreland County. And that contract goes for another year and a half, maybe 2 years.
March of 2013.
Right. Okay. So, but one of the services that we provide for all of our customers that's relatively unique is, even though you guys are under a contract right now, the thought is we don't have to worry about this till the end of 2013. Let's worry about everything else we have to do. But by doing that, at the end of 2013, if Dan comes to me and says, okay, it's time to redo this contract, we may be at a 5-year high in electricity markets. And if that was the case, we may have to say, okay, your electricity rates are going to go up by 40%. But what we do is, even though you guys are under contract, we're continuously monitoring the market for opportunities to put time on the back end of that contract. The way the electricity market works is, even though that contract is in place, okay, if we see a buying opportunity, we can, we're not going to change that existing contract, but we can put a different contract on the back end of that. Over the past 30 days, there's been a significant downturn in the electricity market. Significant. When Dan and I originally talked and put this contract in place with the district, the prices that we were seeing, and I think you guys are in the 6.5 cents.
6 cents, a little over 6 cents.
You're a little over 6 cents. My projection to Dan is, we haven't seen any prices like this in 5 years, and we may never see them again. Over the past 30 days, we have fallen through the bottom of where those prices are. So as a result, we have started to go back out with all of our school districts, in particular as our priority, to re-solicit prices for those future years. Some of the preliminary prices we are getting are under 6 cents. We're seeing certain preliminary prices for districts that are 10 and even 20% lower than the prices we saw a year and a half ago that we thought we would never see again. So we're trying to work kind of at a fast pace here. I think maybe over the next month I might be coming to Dan and saying, hey Dan, we've got the updated numbers for the district. We're going to ask you to commit to something that starts in January or May of 2013 and go for an extra year, that it will be below the price you're going to pay. And again, it's just hedging. It's the right thing to do because we never want to get in a situation where your contract runs out and you're at the mercy where the market is at that point.
We were paying over 8 cents per kilowatt hour prior to locking in at 6 cents, slightly over 6 cents. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's a very good chance that you guys are going to be in the upper fives, which is money saved. With a district your size, that could be somewhere around $50,000 a year.
Are there any questions for Mr. Cameron? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you, sir. You do a wonderful job of explaining all of this. And I hope that the people who may watch this on the television channel get that as well. And it's great to see how technology and all the things that you do have improved the market for utilities that we all have to use, and we here in the school district pay a pretty penny for it.
Oh, you guys, it's a significant expenditure for you guys, so our job is to do everything we can to minimize that. And if I'd have known we were on TV, I'd have been a little bit more nervous. I didn't realize.
Okay, but I didn't say that. And the next item is that Ms. Barterick is here to talk to us about our audit.
Good evening. I'll keep this as short as possible. Dan's passing your copies out. If you look at page 3 of your report when you get it, that's our independent auditor's report. The independent auditor's report really outlines your responsibilities for the financial statements versus our responsibilities in the audit. This opinion is an unqualified opinion, which is considered a clean opinion. And you can see in the last paragraph on page 3, we indicate that you adopted a couple Government Accounting Standards Board statements this year. Now, the effect that had on your financial statements, if you go to page 16, you can see that the definition of your governmental fund balances have changed in comparison to prior years. Under the new statement, you have various categories of fund balance. You have non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. All of those categories are really driven by either outside restrictions or by board designation or budgetary restrictions. And all of those various categories are explained on page 34 of your financial statement. It will give you a detail of what each one of those categories is and how the monies get in and out of there. If you go to page 63 of your report, that's our schedule of findings and question costs. And it gives you results of the audit both at the financial statement and at the federal single audit level. From a financial statement standpoint, we had no internal control weaknesses reported. We didn't report any significant deficiencies. There were no non-compliance with laws and regulations that we detected. And we had the exact same results from the federal award standpoint. Now we had a lot of major programs this year because of the type of fundings that you got, but we did not have any findings. So that's very good for you.
That's what you want to hear.
Right? That's right. And as you go through and review the audit further, if you have any questions, please feel free to call us. That's what we're here for.
Thank you, Barb. If anybody has any questions, please, you won't be asked to review or to approve the audit until next week. If you have any questions, please contact me. If I'm unable to answer those, I'll get in touch with Barb and get back to you on it. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Yes, I would. Ryan and Jill Desco have 2 children at Bagby Elementary, and they came to me earlier in the school year. Ryan's family has a family trust, and they wanted to donate $4,000 to Bagby Elementary, and they wanted that used toward purchase something in the technology area. Again, I consulted with Mrs. Pinus, and we have Elmo projectors. We have 2 Elmo projectors at every grade level at Bagby Elementary. And if you're not familiar with what an Elmo is, think of the overhead projectors, and it's an overhead projector on steroids. It's more of a document camera, which means you set this camera up, you connect it to a computer, connect it to an LCD projector, or connect it to the smart boards that are in our classrooms, and you can show any document underneath this camera. No more transparencies. If you want to put this camera above a keyboard to show how to keyboard in a class, you can do that. If you're working with any book, you slide the book right underneath for a presentation. Through this donation from the Desco family, we're able to purchase 7 more document cameras, which means 1 more for every grade level, a total of 3 now in every grade level. It's something that teachers always say, well, if I just have more document cameras. So again, we're adding a complementary piece to what we already have, and it's a much needed piece. One other aside, the Descos have come to me every year that I've been at Bagley Elementary, and this $4,000 donation pushes their total contributions to Bagley Elementary over $10,000 just in the last 3 years. So I certainly appreciate their generosity as well.
Where's your big check?
No big check this time. It could be a check for $1 million and be that big. That's all. Any questions? You're always welcome to come to Bagley Elementary and see the things that we have. You can go to any of the schools and see the smart boards or the document cameras, but you're always welcome to come out if you'd like to see these things in use.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Albert. Community Relations, Dr. Zorch.
I just want to let everybody know how rare this is to have something listed in this community relations. I can't even use my line pin. Since Mr. Watson knows about this, I will defer to him.
We'll be putting a motion on the agenda for approval next week to sort of designate what will happen with the Bell, the old administration building. As everybody's aware, that building's been sold to the Latrobe Presbyterian Church. They've shown interest in maintaining that bell. And I know that we've talked a little bit about possibly doing some sort of plaque dedication. Between now and next week, I'll work with Mr. Nichols to get a formal resolution in place to make that motion. Any questions?
Thank you for ringing my comedy relief.
Oh, you'll be good next
Try not to make that happen.
You'll have plenty of opportunity, I'm sure. Thank you, Dr. Zorch. Property and Supply, Mrs. Kozar.
Yes, we'll be asking for permission to advertise for the senior high school waiver trip.
Thank you. Student activities and recreation, since Dr. Lockman isn't here, I'll just take that. In your packet on pages 8 and 9, you have the Latrobe Unity Parks and Recreation Commission meeting minutes for the month of November. I'd just like to also inform the board that if you recall, I think it was probably about last April or May, I asked you to approve a motion because we were applying for another DCNR grant for this for the John Street Parklet. And only 2 grants were awarded in Westmoreland County this year, and we got ours. So the John Street Parklet is located behind LES, and it's going to be a great boon for that school because they're going to develop that as a playground for very, very young students. And we have a true need for that. Most of our playgrounds are geared to the older students, and this one's going to be geared to the very young. It's all going to be fenced in, very nice little area with some trees. It's called a parklet because it's very small, but we were very pleased to get that grant, and it is a great help for us in the school district with the playground for the young students at LES. They can walk there, and it's a nice fenced-in area for them to play. So wanted to let you know about that. So that concludes that. EWCTC Joint Operating Committee, Mrs. Kozar.
Resolution is to appoint Mrs. Maines up until April 5th, 2013. That's by the IU board, correct? That's correct. The Greater Latrobe board in December, in January, this is to approve, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Mrs. Elder shaking her head.
The IU has this very strange and antiquated procedure that they follow, where they send ballots to everybody, and we are fortunate in this county in that every school district has a member on the IU board. That's not true in every unit in the state. And I could see how the procedure works if that weren't true, but we live here and I have never been able to figure out why the procedure works the way it does.
So you get approved the second time from the IU.
Nonetheless, that will be on the agenda next week for approval, whether we understand it or not. I'm sorry, Mrs. Kozer, no report. No report, thank you.
What you do about that?
Board policy, PSBA liaison, Mrs. Elder.
As is noted on the agenda, the next meeting of the policy committee will be Monday, January 30th at 1:30 p.m. And I'd also like to say that in my reading the things that come for the PSBA liaison in my email, the state reports that revenues are down in some categories. They range from 1.75% to 4%. And Governor Corbett's budget message will be delivered on February 7th.
Thank you, Mrs. Elder. Transportation, Dr. Moffett.
We're gonna have a transportation meeting, Wednesday, January 20th.
At 4 from now on, and it'll be in my office at the high school. The
4
school
p.m.
days over and gone, we can have right there.
4 p.m.
At 4 p.m., right, it's the better time for it.
And technology, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you. We've been on hiatus over the holidays. Our next meeting is tomorrow, January 11th. And then I'll get you the business.
Do you have a time?
At 9 o'clock something.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you.
Superintendent's recommendations.
I'll ask the board to move on several resolutions next week. Number one is the resignations. The first one is actually a retirement from the food service department. Antoinette Garbeglio, who worked at LES as the kitchen manager, and Erin Kuncher as the girls volleyball coach. We will also have a list of professional substitute teachers and nurses that we will have for you to approve, as well as make a recommendation for the maintenance HVAC position, full-time maintenance position, as well as the classified personnel recommendations that are listed there.
Keep going.
I'd like to take a moment to recognize, it is School Board Recognition Month. And as much as everyone sitting here who has served on the board in the past recognizes that there's not a whole lot of, well, actually there's no compensation for being on the board other than the intangible asset of feeling good because you're doing a great job. But across the state, Pennsylvania celebrates School Board Recognition Month in January. And number one, we would like to thank you from the community as well as from the school district personnel for giving of your time, energy, knowledge, support to the education of the students here at Greater Latrobe. As much as we joke, as far as compensation, we all know that none of you receive any type of compensation for your services to the district. And truly, truly, that is what volunteerism is all about. And I think that the 9 of you sitting before us are really the perfect example of what volunteering truly is. And from my position, and I know from the administrative staff and the teachers and other staff here in the district, we do appreciate all of your time and efforts in the betterment of students here in the school district. So thank you very much. We have 2 things in front of you that in the show numbers. A shirt that PSBA has been touting this year is "We Believe in Public Education." So all of you have one of those in front of you to be worn proudly. As far as being part of all righty. I'll tell you. As well as a mug referencing Greater Latrobe School District. So thank you very much, and we do appreciate all of your time and energy and support of the school district. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to say that before Christmas, I can't remember exactly when this was, but there was a flurry of phone calls from a reporter at the Latrobe who was basically questioning what we had done with the money that we got last year for our budget that we thought when we passed the budget we weren't going to get. And it sort of evolved into, what had happened in our budget, et cetera. And I did talk with him finally, and one of the things that I said to him was that a perception out there is that school directors don't know how hard it is on our communities when we raise taxes. And on the contrary, with an exclamation mark, we not only know how hard it is on our communities if we have to raise taxes, what we know is how hard it is on our schools if we are not able to support the programs that we begin, that, one of the points that I made to him, and I don't know whether it will come out when he prints anything, but for each child in our schools, if you're in 4th grade, this is the only time you will ever be in 4th grade. And the only year you will ever have to do that transition between primary K through 3 and intermediate 4 through 6. This is the beginning of a very important transition. And if a program to the 4th grade is cut while you're there, you will suffer from it. And there have been all kinds of studies, one done with great publicity by Bill Gates, showing what the impact of having a bad teacher or being in a bad school is, and how much that is magnified for each year that happens. And so I said that school directors not only know what we're doing to our communities, but even more importantly to us, we know what we will do to our schools. And so we have a double burden to bear when we're looking at our budgets. And it is very difficult. And I think last year's was one of the most difficult I've ever seen, but I don't think it's going to get easier, particularly in this economy, as that goes on. And the news about state revenues being down is just a further nudge toward that position. But I believe that school directors are a wonderful group of people who give a great deal of time, and not only the time we spend in this room, but the time we spend reading, the time we spend listening to people talk to us about what they think. And what Dr. Zorch said earlier, even the people who think their schools aren't failing don't know what a great job their schools are really doing if they live in this school district. And there are so many good things that are happening here. And it really is very important that we all take a minute to realize that we have had some part in having that occur.
And just some other announcements there, you can read those on your own. Just in addition, letter D, Greater Latrobe is hosting the Pennsylvania Music Education Association. That should be the junior high district band concert. It's held at the senior high school, but it is the junior high band concert on January 21st here at the senior high. If anybody would like to come, it's really a great event.
Thank you very much. Other business lists the upcoming meetings for you. Of course, our regular meeting is next Tuesday, January 17th. Committee of the whole in February is on Valentine's Day, February 14th. And the regular meeting is Tuesday,